Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about Rycooter's Tamp Em Up Solid. And if you want to get the tab for the part that I just played, you can go sign up for my newsletter. There's a link down below. There's a link on screen. Sign up and you can get the tab just for that little bit of the solo that I just played, and you can check it out note for note. What I'm going to do in this lesson is just talk about what that solo is in terms of technique, the thumb, and the chord shapes and the licks, and then show you some ways to improvise within that style. So you can use that arrangement and that tune as a point of departure. So let's get into that. Just playing through it slowly, that's basically like the first 8 bars of the Rycooter solo in the middle of the tune on the Paradise and Lunch record. And so what's going on looks basically like this. When I slow it down, it may end up being a little different from exactly what I played at the opening, but here's the idea. And so it's a typical alternating thumb thing, and it's in D, and we're in drop D tuning. So the low string is tuned down a whole step to D, and then we've just got the usual A, D, G, B, and E. So the thumb is alternating between the 6th string, 4th string, 5th string, 4th string. So like this. And that's most of the tune, except that every other bar, it kind of hints at a G chord. And since we're in drop D tuning, you can't play a G in the usual way. You'd have to come up here, or if you want to stay in open position, you just grab the 3rd and the bass. So if you play this, that's implying a D chord and then a G chord. And so you'll hear the bass going like this, and then here's the 2nd bar, and then a 3rd bar, 4th bar, and then 5th bar, and then the G to an A, and then this note kind of gets fudged. It's really just, and then sometimes there's some syncopated stuff at the end, that sort of thing, where the thumb doubles up, that sort of sound. So, and then sometimes you'll hear like a fill instead. Or, can't remember exactly, but there's places to do that sort of thing at the end of each line. Now on top, the melody is really just spelling out a D chord. Even when it gets to the 4 chord and the 5 chord, but we'll see when we get there. But basically, we're playing the 5th, the 6th, the root, and then flat 3rd into the 3rd of D. That's the whole sort of melodic material for this. So and then repeats again. And so even when you're on the G and the A chord, it's really just D. So if you're, familiar with the idea of playing major pentatonic scale, like if you're soloing like on electric guitar, this is just a major pentatonic scale, basically. 5, 6, root, flat 3 into 3, right? I mean, the 2nd would be the other note in the scale. Right, that's just. So if you're wondering what Dickie Betts and Rycooter have in common at all, it's those 5 notes. So the trick, of course, is putting it all together. And so really, if you can get the bass going on and then you can kind of look at what the fingers are doing, then it's just a matter of like slowly matching them up. So you've got one horizontal idea, which is, which is this going across in time. And then you've got this melody, and that's going across in time. So when you look at how they sync up, you have to look at every little vertical moment. So this happens. Right, and so you're just matching up. Here's the bass. First you have this pickup, and then you have this pinch. where the thumb is playing and the finger's playing and you slide, and then the thumb happens on beat 2, and then the bass happens, and then the bass happens, and then so you want to just walk through and kind of line up those moments. So that's the basic arrangement. So if you want to just sort of practice the groove, one of the best things you can do is get the thumb going and then just practice putting in little bits of the D chord on top, like just on the downbeat. So doing that pinch on 1 and then following through with the thumb, or putting it on all the other beats one by one. So there it is on beat 2 or on beat 3. And so on. And then you can try to syncopate it by doing, say, on the and of 1, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then you can start to make combinations where you're playing. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so that just, if you can sort of get to where you can just sit and play a groove where the thumb and the fingers are coordinated, that's one of the best things you can do to just get this feel sort of into your body and into your hands. If you want to start to improvise, then you can look at these notes, and you can do a couple of things. One is you can just start playing those notes over the thumb, practicing them the same way you're practicing the chords, just like looking at what beat they're on. So I just sort of, or just taking one note and playing it every other bar, every other beat. You know, there's just different ways you can come up with to make sure you're putting the notes exactly where you mean to put them, even if it doesn't sound super musical at first. And then if you want to just start to wing it, you can just kind of treat it as like, this is the groove, and I'm just going to improvise on top of it. And you might just take really simple phrases and try to focus them around the root, so little licks that land on the root. And then you can start to make them a little more complicated. But just make sure you stop and breathe. And you can also try to model your playing on the phrasing of that original solo, because it's got a little pickup phrase, and then it lands, and then it repeats with a little variation, and then it plays a more complicated ending. It's a perfect little model of melodic development, right? So it's got this phrase, and then it sort of shortens the phrase as the answer. Then it does the whole thing again and goes on and plays an answer to itself. So it's this beautiful little statement, right? And so you can practice improvising that way and say, well, I'm going to take a short phrase, whatever it is, or so. It's the exact same idea. So rhythmically, you're swiping what's going on, but you're putting new notes in. And so finally, just if you want to try to make things a little more ambitious, you can start by saying, well, what's a cool lick I could play? Maybe you want to play something that's a little longer and more chromatic. And before you try to just improvise that over the melody, you can come up with the phrase and then see how it lands over the bass. And you have to plot it like note by note. Then you can do so. And then eventually, you put all of those things together, the sort of the phrasing, modeling, and then more chromatic ideas, and the chord grooves, and you can combine all of that. So you can start with the solo itself and then break it down to the bones and see what's going on in terms of technique and in terms of the musical ideas, and then use that as a framework to slowly build things back up so that you can do your own kind of improvisation on that form and on that idea. So again, if you want to check out the tab for the basic solo, go sign up for my newsletter and you'll get the tab. And there'll be more tunes coming in the series, so stay tuned and check it out and leave comments down below if you've got them. I'll see you next time.